It's Tuesday, another sourcing run. Let's do it. I just hit a local thrift store and bought 19 items, most of them books, also 2 CDs and a VHS tape of Garth Brooks live concert. Those are a type of VHS tape that can be valuable and profitable are live events, whether it's a concert, whether it's some sort of performance for kids, and it could be anything really, stand-up routine. But live events often were only captured, well, clearly it only happened the one time, but they were captured and put on VHS tape and frequently were never made it to DVD or Blu-ray or anything like that. Oftentimes those VHS tapes can be valuable. Whenever you see a live concert or event or performance, look those up because you just never know. There's going to be something good. Most of the Garth Brooks concert VHS tapes I found have not been going for very much money. This one is going for at least $10, so that was good. I got 2 CDs, and one of the CDs is going for pretty good money, probably listed for anywhere maybe up to $20, maybe a little bit less. But they don't have very many CDs, very few, probably 30 CDs. So not a very big sourcing place for that, or for VHS tapes either. They have more books than anything else. The funny thing is though, I looked through the young adult section, or I guess older kids section, where they have the books for like, you know, teenagers or something like that. And I found some kids books. I couldn't believe it. I found a handful of religious themed books, hardcover, that are all going, they're not ranked that great. I mean, they're all under like 2.5 million. Most of them are over 1 million, but there's not that many copies, and they're going for decent money. And they're all 98 cents to buy. So I grabbed like 4 or 5 of those, and I found a couple other fiction titles in there that are worth money. You know, I talked about this in another video, I don't know, a few weeks ago about how to pick fiction titles that are worth scanning and are hopefully profitable based upon the spines and the covers, the artwork, the design, the aesthetic appeal, and the texture of the cover. If there's a bunch of fiction, you always want to skip the mass market paperbacks, those little paperbacks. I don't think any of those are really worth any money. The larger paperback fiction books can be worth some money. Some of them. You just kind of have to get used or get comfortable with being able to pick out the profitable ones. Instead of scanning 100 of the fiction titles, you know, you can scan maybe 30 and find 8 profitable ones. I was able to find some from there, and I found a few other adult fiction titles and some nonfiction, but didn't get too many. But it was pretty quick sourcing run. The thing about this place is they don't go below 98 cents for their books. So, you know, I'm not going to find a 50-cent book or a 30-cent book or a 10-cent book. But as long as I can make some profit, it's worth it. You know, I got a book. Probably see it in that little clip I shot. It's fiction, and it's ranked 64 in books. 64. So it's selling tons of copies a day, hundreds and hundreds of copies a day. It's selling for, I believe it was just over $9, like $9.03. No. It was $8.54. That's what it was. That's the Amazon price. And there's one other offer, 1 penny less at $8.53. And the rest of them are actually all the way up to like $15. Something like $4 or $5 more. Can't remember exactly. Clearly they're hoping, or crossing their fingers, that Amazon will run out and they'll be there ready to pounce and sell the book for more money. But, you know, that's a risk you take. But some of those books that sell so many copies, it might be worth it if you don't mind waiting. You're not going to make that much more money, but, you know, if you have a lot of those best-selling books, it could be worth it. I'm in the drive-thru to get my delicious burrito, and the car in front of me, I'm not kidding, all of a sudden, this giant glass bottle, which is clearly like a 40-ounce beer bottle, comes flying or rather is tossed, comes flying, is tossed out of the passenger side window, and there's a bush nearby, and clearly they were trying to throw it into the bush and hoping it would just kind of settle in there. It bounces off the bush and falls straight on the asphalt and shatters. It still has beer in it. Shatters right next to their car. And the woman that's driving is like looking in her rear view, or looking in her side mirror at me like, did he see it? Did he see it? I'm like, yeah, clearly. So that was weird. Why would you throw it into the bush? And and then you do it and you try to act like it didn't happen. Even though the guy working there saw it, but you know, I guess he doesn't want any problems. He's just gonna go clean it up afterwards. I told him when I drove through, I was like, did you see them throw that? And he's like, yeah. You know, and he's kind of looking at the car as it drove off, like, what are you gonna do? And I'm like, well, that's up to you. It's your property, but just crazy what people do. Back to book selling. While I was scanning books today, a woman asked me, what did she ask me? She asked me, are you looking for older books? And she kind of stopped me in my tracks because I don't know what she was talking about. And I said, no. She's like, because she said, yeah, because you're scanning she said, you're scanning the barcodes. And I said, no, I'm just, you know, I look up all kinds of books or something like that. Because I didn't know what her point was. I mean, clearly she didn't know what I was doing, why I was looking at books. Perhaps she was confused, and I don't know why she would think that I was looking or scanning barcodes trying to find older books. That just confused me. But anyway, it was the first time in a while that someone asked me while I was at a thrift store, you know, about what I'm doing. It's always strange. I guess to people it just seems like, what is this guy doing? He doesn't work here, so why is he using his phone to look up the books? And I can understand that. You know, I think immediately it sparks curiosity in a lot of people. I just want to know, like, what is happening? What am I not knowing about? What am I missing out on? And she was looking to buy books to read, buying a few. How often do you get asked what you're doing, or why are you scanning books, or what are you using your phone for when you're outsourcing at thrift stores, let's say? Because I think it's different. If you go to a book sale, people expect to see scanners. It's kind of common, not necessarily at yard sales or estate sales. Sometimes at thrift stores, it's probably not as common, depending on the thrift store you're going to and where you live in the neighborhood and that sort of thing. But I don't get asked that often. Most of the people that I see at thrift stores are not. They're shopping there because that's where they shop. They shop at thrift stores, and most of them are not buying books. Most of them are buying clothes and other items. So they're just not, they don't care. They're not paying attention to what I'm doing. And that's the overwhelming majority of people. It's very rare that someone asks me in a thrift store what I'm doing, especially thrift stores that are in poorer areas. You know, a lot of the people frequenting those places they don't have much money. That's why they go into a thrift store, and they're not really, you know, they're not aware of what's out there. At least, you know, they're not paying attention to me and what I'm doing. I'll tell you that. So how often do you get asked questions about that? Because it doesn't happen, or about you scanning. It doesn't happen that often to me. I'm always kind of like surprised at a thrift store when someone asks me. And here's a quick tip. If you are scanning a book with a dust jacket or dust cover, and it doesn't have a barcode on the back side, on the back cover, frequently there will be a barcode on the inside of the back flap. So the flap on the back, if you just open the book there to the inside of the back cover, sometimes it'll have either a barcode or an ISBN number. If you're not finding one on the back cover. Now usually it's on the back cover, back of the dust cover, there's either the number or there's a barcode, but sometimes it's on the inside. I didn't know that for a while, and I, you know, instead of going to the front of the book and looking up the ISBN number, you can frequently just scan the barcode that's on the inside of the dust cover, the back of the dust cover. So that's a little tip, just in case anyone out there didn't know about that. I'm listening to NPR in the car while I'm coming home, and they're talking about the environment and how companies and consumer buying habits is negatively affecting the environment. So they were talking a lot about Amazon and talking about how all of the trucks, UPS trucks, airplanes, all of the people that are buying off Amazon, especially Prime, are requiring that they get their stuff really fast, and that requires a lot of driving, a lot of traveling around, flying, etc., to get the item you want at your doorstep really quickly. Sometimes same day, sometimes 2 days, sometimes within a few hours even. That's one issue. The second issue is the packaging. So they were saying that a lot of people buy something on Amazon, and then the packaging there's more packaging than is necessary, and there's more packaging than there is the product. The packaging is larger and takes up more space than the product. They had people writing on their Facebook page and whatnot about how, I bought this item that could fit in a 5x5 box, but I got it in a 14x12x12 box, and there was tons of paper in there, packaging, and it wasn't even a fragile item. And people tweeting photos of that type of stuff, saying it's unnecessary, and Amazon doesn't need to do that. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And, they also talked a lot about Prime and how Prime has changed the game, and it requires, things to get there so quickly that all of that, the packaging and the added cars and trucks and planes, using fuel and spewing that stuff into the atmosphere, all of that is adding to hurting the environment, which it definitely is. But I don't think the issue is, now they were focusing on Amazon because, Amazon is an easy target. They sell more stuff online than anyone else, as far as I know. But they're an easy target, and they even mentioned that. They said, yeah, but it's not just Amazon, it's other companies. And they were saying, yeah, but Amazon with Prime has really kind of set the bar, and now other companies have to do the same thing. So they're saying, it went from down on Main Street, to your main shopping location, to malls, and now to online. It's evolving, and now with Prime, it's getting even crazier, where people are getting stuff so fast. And it just made me think, what effect do I and us as resellers have? Well, clearly we're participating in the whole cycle, although selling books is not something that I don't believe, based on books that I've ordered off Amazon, that requires a lot of packaging, or that they use big boxes for, unless you're ordering a lot of books. But regardless, we're part of the process. But at the same time, I think that the issue is more of consuming, right? That this country consumes, we want to buy. Hence why there's so many thrift stores, why there's so much stuff for us to resell, like books, like CDs, and everything else. Everything for eBay and for Amazon, whether it's clothes or electronics or whatever it may be. That we as a society here in this country consume a lot. So I think the issue is more with consuming. People are going to consume, and they're going to continue to consume, and the larger our population grows, there's going to be more consumption. So I don't think that, us being, because I was thinking, what part am I playing in this? Should I feel bad about selling on Amazon? And no, I feel bad about the amount that people consume. Honestly, if people weren't consuming so much, I wouldn't be in the business, because there wouldn't be so many books and everything else to find. So it's kind of like, well, I wish people weren't consuming so much. Not only consuming, but then also getting rid of, right? Because they get too much stuff. But then at the same time, if they weren't, then I couldn't be doing this business. So what are you going to do? So everybody out there, stop consuming so much, okay? But don't, because then I can't build this business up to 6 figures or have it at all. So, take your pick. And with that note about the environment, remember, keep booking.